fascinating. Joining us now is Meslansky and Partners president and partner Lee Carter, along with Fox News contributor Liz Peek. Really got the A-team here. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Lee, I want to go to you first because it is extraordinary that so many black voters seem to identify with Donald Trump's lawfare with a campaign against him, the lawfare campaign. They have seen in their own lives, or at least heard stories about people being persecuted by prosecutors who will paint a target on their back and even if they don't have the evidence, make it happen. If anything, it's making my support of Trump grow stronger, said that guy. I'm just wondering, is lawfare, even the conviction of Trump, working now against Biden?
I sure think so. I mean, about 80% of Americans say they believe that there's a two-tier system of justice in this country, and they think that the law is not applied fairly across the board. They feel like they aren't treated fairly. In fact, they feel like they're judged, disparaged, looked down on, and about 68% of Americans say they want somebody who's going to fight back, and they see Donald Trump as somebody who's going to fight back. They see him as someone who's going to take on the fight for the oppressed. You think 82% of Americans think that he's going to fight for issues that matter most to them. And so when you put that all together, you've got the perfect formula for people who otherwise have supported the Democratic candidates to now go for Donald Trump. And I think we're seeing a lot of disappointment and disillusionment in how the last few years have gone. And I think they're willing to give something else a try.
And what's so interesting to me is that on the left, whether you're talking about Democrats themselves or the liberal media, Liz, all they have is he's a convicted felon and he's a threat to democracy, because they can't actually punch back when it comes to the actual issues like the economy, like the border, like crime, and what people are really worried about. So I look at these two events they had over the weekend. One is with the celebrity A-list team, and the other is in Michigan, talking to people who are suffering right now and want to know what he's going to do for change. And you see basically how these two campaigns are running.
Yeah, it's a very unusual election in that we have two presidents, a former president and incumbent, both actually running, theoretically at least, on their records, but only one is willing to do that. And Joe Biden lies all the time, and the administration lies about their accomplishments. They talk about how they inherited this disaster of an economy and they turned it around. It's not true. And I think voters are figuring that out. I think people are now kind of looking back at the Trump years and saying, well, wait a minute, we didn't have inflation. The economy was roaring back when Joe Biden took office, growing at 6%. All you've done is spend so much money that it brought on inflation, which went up to 9% and really hurt the average American big time. It didn't hurt the Hollywood elites. They're totally right about that. But it hurt the average worker. And that is why Donald Trump is doing better. But I think the most interesting thing, going to Lee's comment, the group that is really switched is young black men. And maybe it has to do with the whole idea of justice and so forth. Maybe it's just because they're a little rebellious and they think that Donald Trump might bring something that hasn't been there before. His famous line from last time, about what have you got to lose? Wow, what a powerful idea that was, right? Because the answer is nothing.
That's right. Yeah. It's so simple. Such
yeah,
a simple
so
question.
Simple.
That put everything in perspective. But you mentioned money, and I want to move on to this. Money is on voters' minds as Trump touts his plan to axe the tax on tips for service workers. As a former waiter, I can appreciate this. Watch.
We need to spread the word so that every time you leave a tip for the next 5 months, you put on the receipt, vote for Trump, because there's no tax on tips.
Meanwhile, you've got President Biden, and he continues to push for higher taxes as part of his pay your fair share motto. Really interesting to me. You're looking at a corporate tax rate as well. You want 15 to 21%. You're going to vote for President Trump. You want a 28% corporate tax rate. That's what the Biden administration is proposing, Lee.
28% is a really, really high tax rate, and I think it's going to be a big problem for Joe Biden. Now, it's popular. If you were to ask people what they want, oh, yeah, tax those big, greedy companies because they're the ones that are causing all of our problems. But in practice, if you look at how competitive we'll be as a country, it's a major, major problem. We also look at the other things that Biden is proposing about capital gains increase. It's basically penalizing people for their success. We're taxing however we can, and I think that it's actually in the end going to backfire, because I think people are going to remember lower taxes. They are going to remember in the end that we want to stay competitive as a nation. But I just think it's going to be a big problem for Joe Biden. And I think it's interesting that Donald Trump is picking up on I'm going to go on to tips. He's really looking
Yes.
to fight for the working class, and that's what he's really going after. He's not going after the elites. He's not going after, I'm not going to come back and talk about the tax cuts that I've done before. What I'm going to do is something symbolic and different, and I think it's actually really smart.
And then, Liz, another way in which Trump could possibly pull the rug out from under Biden's economic plans, as strange as they are sometimes, the whole idea of loopholes. Biden's saying we got to start, even though he's guilty of taking loopholes in his life.
Got all these
but beyond
corporations.
that, a lot of flat tax folks who are working for Trump are making progress in convincing him that maybe getting rid of all deductions for everybody and just having one simple flat tax of 20% with a $30,000 deductible for the folks who can't afford it is the way to go. That would kill Biden's plan.
Wouldn't it be amazing? Do you remember when Trump ran in 2016, and he actually said this at the time, he did champion tax cuts, and that was very popular. People liked those ideas. But what they really liked was the idea you could file on the back of an envelope, that he was going to make it so simple. They didn't get there. They didn't eliminate all the deductions and so forth, unfortunately, because the flat tax idea is incredibly genius, right? Who wants to spend hours and millions of dollars on tax lawyers and so forth? Nobody does. That's a total waste of our economic well-being in this country. So it would really be an astonishing thing to make progress on the flat tax. I don't think we'll get there, honestly, David. There are too many vested interests. There are too many vested interests in terms of deductions and lawyers and everything else. But it would be. But one more thing. The thing on tips was genius. He did it in Las Vegas, the biggest hospitality market in the world, where everybody is existing on tips.
Yeah.
So smart.
All right, before we let you go, we want to move on to this because it was just mere hours before Biden went viral for yet another awkward onstage moment. Was he frozen? What was going on? Was he taking it all in? We're going to let you decide. But down in Phoenix, First Lady Jill Biden attempted to shift voters' focus to Medicare and Social Security, claiming that Trump is trying to destroy the programs, and had this to say about concerns around her husband's age.
Joe Biden is a healthy, wise, 81-year-old, ready and willing to work for you every day. Joe and the other guy are essentially the same age, so let's not be fooled. Joe isn't just one of the most effective presidents of our time in spite of his age, but because of it.
I mean, voters have eyes. Are they going to believe this, Lee?
Look, only 30% of Americans believe that Joe Biden is mentally fit for office at this point, and more than 50% say that Donald Trump is. The argument is simply not working. I think the biggest thing that Joe Biden has going for him right now is abortion.
Yeah.
His message on those two Supreme Court justices, that is the biggest thing that he has going for him. It could win him suburban women, and I think that is the thing that the Republicans really need to watch out for, because that is the only thing. It's not going to be convincing people that he's not aging, because he is.
Yeah, we keep hearing the comments from reporters that are in the bag for Biden saying, "Oh no, when he's in private, you should see how
sharp." Yeah.
Don't believe everybody what you see in public. Just believe what they say is actually going on in private." I don't know.
Easy. Bring him out. Let's see him.
Right.
Right.
Well,
let's have a lot of interviews. And exactly. That's an easy thing to fix.
Liz Peek, Lee Carter,
Thanks,
great to
guys.
see you both. Thank you very much.
Thank you.